What is it like to feel boundless power in yourself, so powerful and terrible that even other people, especially the rich, begin to be afraid of you, to be afraid and to sidestep? Probably unpleasant, but a strong person is hardly interested in the opinion of the weak. However, in today's history, something happened that every strong person is so afraid of. The main character was betrayed, and for a small amount of money, a man named Haruyoshi was killed by his own beloved student. However, Geigai did not want to end her life on such a sad note. Thanks to internal forces, he carried out a plan of rebirth by throwing himself into another reality. Time is already a boy. The third younger brother from a noble family of Counts Lapras named Seika begins his new life. And interestingly, he hasn't lost all his abilities, not at all. The main character has the same monstrous power in his arsenal, but from now on he will address her in a different way. So, in order not to accidentally become an enemy for all mankind, and in this case, his plan will help him, namely, Seika will try not to draw his personality into everyone's attention. And in order for everything not to get out of control, Jeej will need to use all the skills of freshening up and also check the summoning spells, in case they have to be applied in some situation. Fortunately, all of Seiki's skills, even in a new body, work like clockwork, and he was even able to summon the last subordinate Fox Yuki. So, Slow asked not to dispel it. The girl was too tired of sitting in a closed draft storage. Fortunately for Yuka, the main character allowed her to stay and continued to do everyday things again. For example, Seika, observing for some time a servant of a slave of the house named Ifa, learned that the girl has an extremely curious ability to interact with elementals as well as with particles of magic in the open world. As it turns out, very few people on the planet see them, and the fact that Ifa can also partially control them speaks of the girl's great and hidden talent, and a strong ally in the person of a servant will obviously not hurt him. Therefore, from that day on, he took Ifa under his care and began to protect her from the attacks of the average greyhound brother Grey, who, unlike the older brother Luft Lamprecht, became very impulsive with age, or simply put, Grey almost always behaves absurdly, ugly and not befitting an aristocrat. Meanwhile, Seika, while the people in the house were walking around, repelled the attack of the lizard monster that suddenly appeared alone, killing the creepy creature with one blow right in front of everyone's eyes. Of course, the plan to not attract attention was considered a failure, but in fact, at such an early stage, it rather played for the better for the main character. Because now his status in the family has risen, so the eternally annoying simpleton Grey immediately descended from heaven to earth, and the father of the family decided that the Academy of the Art of Magic, on behalf of the family, not Grey will go, as originally, but the young Seika, who has not yet revealed his true power to the others. At the same time, it is important to understand that for the world where Seika was reborn, the forces are determined in the art of controlling the magic of the four elements. And since the main character reincarnated on his own, then his abilities remain the same, and he does not own ordinary magic. Although in most tests and when entering school, this will not prevent him in any way, a little just to surprise everyone around. By the way, accompanied by Seika from home, he took Ifa with him so that she would become stronger and absorb more knowledge. However, if upon arrival at the academy it seemed to the main character that none of the students could surpass Ifa in magic, then his doubt was broken about his own coolness by another girl with bright red hair, showing everyone the magic of all elements at once, and the name of an amazing friend Amio, and her character, to put it mildly, is unfriendly. But maybe in the near future, after passing the final tests of the school, Seika will be able to find a moment and chat with her. And such a time came quite quickly when the main character, with mercy and explaining his school uniform, Ifa, came to the first line, where Amio should make a speech to the students. But, unfortunately, the speech of the strongest candidate for the role of an excellent student was interrupted, and from where you don't understand the demons who entered the battle. And while the teachers and the red-haired killer were engaged in the extermination of monsters, Seika, slipping through the turmoil in the building, quickly went outside, straight to the main villain, because of which the attack happened. And the boss is Minotaur, a summoner general with dark magic. The opponent is serious and earnest. It would be if anyone stood in front of him, except the main character, because for a young genius, the whole battle instantly turned into a game of analyzing the enemy with the help of their papers. And as a result, the fight will not even be called equal, since the leader of the invasion died from the summoned sake on the dragon's supper without inflicting a unit of damage to the boy before his death. Although the monster was lucky that his disgraces were not seen by his subjects, who were also suddenly destroyed by Amio's quick attacks, and now it is definitely impossible to lose sight of her. Seika immediately surrounds such a strong person with attention, tries to get closer to her, which is why Ifa is a little jealous. She does not like this kind of relationship, because it really hurts that Ifa is ready for anything for a guy, and the guy runs after another, and the running of the main character led into a trap. where it is very successful he got with Amio, together with whom the main character had to get out of a certain dungeon. On the way the guys were just able to talk alone. Amio told about herself, about her family of adventurers, and her thirst for fun adventures. Amio listened to everything, but suddenly noticed how Amio suffered a headache of a far unusual nature. There is a curse on the girl in all signs, where the mark is unclear, even revealing the whole body to the guy. Seika did not find a trace of infection, which means most likely the mark was imposed in another way. A professional worked more elegantly, but who exactly is behind the attempted murder of a strong girl, while it will remain a secret? Meanwhile, the prisoners of the dungeon manage to kill the boss Hydro and get out of the vile dungeon with trophies, in the form of a sword given to Amio and a ring for Seika, donated after Iffy to improve her connection with the elements. And having dealt with all the routine, Seika hit into the investigation and the search for who could put a curse on the strongest student of the academy, so also to do it unnoticed. And to the tragedy of the school, the scent killer turned out to be a familiar Professor Cordell, checking students for exams, and now engaged in the underground procurement of cursed potions. Seika was led to him by an incident with a funny situation when the professor tried to lift a large cauldron with the same poison inside, and all the deadly weapons were made in order to end the heroine Amio once and for all. Yes, as Seika learns, Amio in this world is a kind of reincarnation of a former Red Warrior, and if the girl is a descendant of such a great man, then it is necessary to try to destroy her from the cradle. However, Seika will not allow this to happen, and he will take the girl under protection, saving her from any threats and those individuals who harm her. But in fairness, it is impossible to start taking care of such a serious person too much, otherwise the girl will not reveal herself as a hero. Although Amio's strength is still even more behind Seika, and a new student of the academy named Mabel, a new suspicious-looking girl with the same red hair, immediately upon arrival at school, received the status of Amio's main rival because of her incredible skills in combat, which we still have. They will have time to surprise, because a clear surveillance is being established for Mabel from the main character, who, at the invitation of the old director of the academy, had a chance to go with Mabel to a tournament of related arts, where Seika is going to find out more reliable information about the unknown, but not like Amio. The tournament itself is only a cover for the boy, since a worthy opponent is unlikely to meet Seika. Although one guy was able to get a look from the main character, and the name of a possibly strong fighter was named Kyle, with his ability of an intimidating eye, shackling unprepared opponents to death. Kyle is creepy for everyone except the main character. It's more interesting for him to follow Mabel for now, and the guy's interest is not in vain, because at night, free from the battle time, a letter was withdrawn from the hands of another, like a bandit, like an ordinary merchant, who twisted the spirit of a mind-reading monkey once caught by Seika in a past life. The main character managed to get secret information, namely Mabel is a fake heroine. She was trained so that she could cope with insurmountable obstacles, manages the entire process of replacing the hero, the trade association together with the academy to distract the demon hunt for Mabel instead of Amio. The plan is logically good, but there is no smell of humanity here, because condemning one girl to death, it will no longer work to be clean. And Seika decides not to allow Mabel further to the abyss of death, in which she moves independently without slowing down, her desire to be useful to the merchants who trained her together with her brother. Later it turns out that just Kylo is her last relative, makes Mabel completely give up her life for it is not clear what, for other people, just because she is so destined by fate, although in fact all this is just a pathetic plan of merchants, embedding not only children in tournaments for their own benefit, but also having deceived the academy from above, having arranged a sneak in the person of Kylo, whom the merchants are going to turn into a controlled death machine. And no one cares how his sister will react to this except Seika. He has seen a lot, and if Kylo is unlikely to be saved, the boy's body was pretty battered by merchants, and Jeej did not resort to resurrection, so as not to attract more attention to himself. In return, Seika will protect the sister of the victim of the experiment, and free Mabel from influence, both from sales representatives in the academy, demanding for the girl all equal rights as a student. So we can assume that for Mabel's life got a second start, in a circle of loyal friends at a table in a decent school, where the prince of the lands of Astelia himself, named Cecilio, unexpectedly fell in, along with the right hand of the fox. He came to school to meet Gage, but he could not ignore the beauty of the first girl of the Ifagai, so before the business meeting, Cecilio offered the slave to go out to his harem right away, without preludes and a simple invitation to the company of other girls. Naturally, circumstances did not allow Ifa to agree right away, but it was too early to completely deny her desire, since Seiku was not at all. Ifa is attracted to her as a sweet beauty, only as a student, and Ifa wants more, but there is no answer to her feelings, because Gage is busy with much more global things. such as a showdown with the local Astellan dragon. Those who attacked a group of young people while walking down the street. Fortunately, no one was injured. The court summoner Zek together with Seika restrained the dragon, driving him back to his lair nearby, from where, according to legends, as the prince tells, dragons have been protecting these lands for a century until today, and then everything changed dramatically. Now with the dragon it is urgently necessary to do something, and focusing on the upcoming meeting with the giant lord of the heavens, Seika, having overlooked the obvious hint of proximity from Ifa, got ready to hit the road and wandered straight to the lair of the fire breather. Meanwhile, having cast off Seika, probably not realizing Ifa's position, he left her all alone at the disposal of the prince with his right-hand fox, and this elf plays an even greater role than Cecilio, since it was she who managed to talk to Ifa alone, showed the charms of the harem and encouraged her to join. While Seika, unaware of the situation in the house, calmly approached Dracoshi and found out the reason for his anger. Egg. The dragon mother guards and incubates the egg so that no one gets close to him, and Seika, knowing a couple of subtleties about the correctness of hatching eggs, began to help the dragon in taking care of the children, although it would be so simple, of course, to overshadow the situation with the company of naive fools bandits. The traitor Zekt came. He is going to deceive the prince by killing the dragon for an untrue reason and taking the whole reward for yourself. But why am I talking about this if it is already clear that Seika did not allow anyone to cause at least some harm to the dragon? And as a sign of gratitude, the dragon gave the main character a ride with good news to the prince's house, where he is with all his might with the guards inclines Ifu to move to the harem, not skimping on power methods. In general, if in a simple way they are going to take the girl from Seika without consent, and they would have managed to do it if not for the speed of the dragon's flight, which managed to take the guardian of Ifa faster than the prince managed to do anything with her, and now the dialogue with him will take place on a different level of trust. Seiku did not like Cecil's rule. His methods are disgusting, more like the actions of a small child. But as a result of negotiations, everything ends on a neutral note. Liz also intervened in the dialogue, asking for forgiveness and apologizing to Ifa for the recent disagreement. And Seika's task about the dragon was also settled. From now on the dragon is again on the side of people, and people will help him with children. Although a happy ending is still far away, because a new demonic threat is brewing in the world and soon people will face such a force that it will be incredibly difficult to resist it. However, until then there is still some quiet time, which Seika and her girlfriends decided to celebrate in the family home by visiting the grown-up brothers Lampresh and father. Everyone has become much wiser, and even Gray, having joined the ranks of the army, has turned into a great guy in every sense, able to match and surpass the same Amio in strength, so the years of training have not been in vain. However, I am happy to praise the brothers, and the slave from the main reason for the arrival. The main character will meet a princess with blue hair, Fiona Ert Iglaw, who, according to Gray, can see the future. And for Seika, surprisingly, her strength is also unique. No, of course, the main character had to deal with working on time. But Fiona's capabilities go beyond even the perception of the main character. Since Fiona is not mistaken, her predictions are 100% correct. And because of a pleasant friendly game of chess, this is again confirmed. No matter how hard you try, you can't win against Fiona. And for Seika, the girl's strength is not yet clear how she will play for or against, so the main character adheres to the tactics of restrained and prudent steps. Although the very fact of being next to Fiona does not bode well, because the girl is guarded by bandits with murderers all over the world because of her strength. Plus, do not forget about our demonic comrades with a head named Salman. His eye, by the way, unlike other team members, can see the strength of all living individuals, so the guys have a legitimate cheater in the squad, who determines the most effective targets for attacks with weak characteristics. But how they will behave when they meet the main character is unclear, but the demons are moving exactly in the direction of Seika, getting closer and closer, having already come very close to the borders of the human city. According to the plan of the demons, Salman and the squad, they are obliged to drive the entire settlement into some one point and destroy all at once, and later meet with the heroine Amio so that the human warrior disappears from the earth again. Nevertheless, the plan to enter the territory of the city was immediately failed, because someone strewed the entire neighborhood with fog, through which it is unrealistic to see the exact outlines of the enemy, and the demons, trying to get deeper into the settlement, did not meet a single defenseless person, only illusions from paper, foreshadowing acquaintance with Seikai, unwittingly towering over Salman and the others. By the way, it was Salman who decided to be the first to analyze the boy, and then the main turning point in history occurred. Salman saw the real name of the personality of the protagonist, but it will be possible to pronounce it only after the death of almost every intruder, and to be more specific, Salman saw the most reborn demon lord. The news, which dramatically changes the whole attitude towards Seika, of course, did not go without a trace. Because now we know that it seems like a kind guy who protects people and that the heroine herself does not fit into her head at all, is the Lord of Demons. And soon after the truth was revealed, everything immediately got out of control around the main character, and a secret plan was immediately brought, implying the capture of the heroine Ami in prison. For what, why, and why Seika can't find out right away. Even the director of the academy is not aware, or she does not want to post real information about the detention. In any case, Seika is not going to leave Ami alone in prison, so leaving a peaceful life behind. He stomped without an invitation to the prison guards, and he doesn't care that the girl was arrested in fact by allies. What difference does it make if they annoy and interfere with the guy? Therefore, the guards quickly annihilate the main character's ability. And now that the road is free and no one survived for the people, Seika was able to get to the prisoner, where he was met in addition to the heroine, the all-seeing Fiona and Gray. They were aware of the attack. Fiona understood that he would come to save the girl, but the princess asks Seika not to release her, since Ami really shouldn't exist now in peacetime, only because of her rebirth. Demons can start fighting with people again, and neither side will allow this he wants to. However, Seika is also not going to give her friend's life for the sake of preventing war. Instead, a different approach to solving the problem was invented, without a victim of violence, which implies the idea of hiding the identity of Ami and Seika, and the two will have to leave the country in search of open adventures. They will also be expelled from the academy, and there will be a truce between demons and people again. Seika agrees to such a plan, and before its execution, hidden by the demon lord, returns the lives of all the guards who died by his hand during the defense of the prison. And on this kind note, the first part of the story of the rebirth of a strong hero ends. And what will happen next? How else Fiona will manifest herself? What kind of journey awaits the demon lord with the heroine and friends? We will already find out in the sequel, the end of the first season. Well, a few words in the end. Anime rebirth of the strongest exorcist in another world. It became very interesting to develop by the end of the story. A super mysterious Fiona appeared. Seika also turned into another character altogether, ready to take the lives of not only enemies, but also allies, and although he later resurrected everyone, but the essence does not change, Seika can go crazy. This is the end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you again.